Creed's meteoric rise to the top of the music scene was just as dramatic as their eventual fall. But why did everyone hate the band so much? Let's find out. Manager and label head Jeff Hansen discovered Scott Stapp, Mark Tremonti, Brian Marshall, and Scott Phillips when Creed was just one of many Florida bar bands. At the time, there wasn't much to suggest they'd soon be one of the biggest musical artists in the world. Hansen revealed that the band was playing a small show at a bar he owned, but they had no online presence and played a set consisting almost entirely of cover songs. Even so, Hansen was impressed with the two originals they had, so he called up a producer friend who agreed to work with the band. Using $6,000 of Hansen's own money, an early version of Creed's debut album, My Own Prison, was recorded. Local radio stations began playing a few tracks, and within a couple of months, Hansen had managed to move several thousand copies. Major labels, however, were less than impressed. Reportedly, 14 labels passed on the band. Soon, Hansen found a home for Creed at the smaller label Wind Up Records. After giving the album a remix, Wind Up re-released it in 1997, and it took right off, eventually selling a staggering 6.7 million copies. Creed followed up their initial success with a bona fide juggernaut, Human Clay, which went platinum 11 times over and spawned the hit singles Higher and With Arms Wide Open. No longer confined to the modern rock charts, Creed was now finding a wide audience and receiving more criticism too. In the review of the album, Time magazine wasn't overly brutal about Human Clay as a whole, but pointed out how Scott Stapp sounded way too much like Pearl Jam singer Eddie Vedder. This is an assessment that would follow Stapp around for decades to come, and all one really has to do is listen and compare the two singers to understand why. Stapp was diplomatic when the subject of Pearl Jam's Rock Hall of Fame induction came up during an interview with Alternative Nation in 2017. He said, "I think they're a great band, man. 10 was a great album, full of great tunes and energy." Despite Scott Stapp's obvious affinity for striking Christ-like poses and tendency to employ Christian imagery in his lyrics, Creed staunchly refused to be identified as a Christian rock band. On the one hand, this is understandable. Other than Christian hair metal outfit Stryper, no band willing to be identified by that label had ever really come close to mainstream success. On the other hand, some critics saw Creed as wanting to have their cake and eating it too, since there were obvious Christian references in the music. Nonetheless, the members of Creed never strayed from the company line whenever the issue was raised. On the band's now-defunct website, Stapp himself sent out a direct message saying Creed is not a Christian band. Speaking with CNN in 1999, Mark Tremonti said, "The Christian rock thing is a big misconception. It's not entirely wrong. We all have morals, but that's it."
That's not what they had signed up for, and me neither.
If part of what annoyed Creed's detractors is a perceived inability to respond honestly to criticism, then this was exemplified by an interview given by bassist Brian Marshall to Seattle radio station KNDD in June 2000. The band was still riding high on the success of Human Clay, and Marshall addressed the issue of Scott Stapp's vocal style being similar to Eddie Vedder's. In Pearl Jam's hometown of all places, Marshall said, "Eddie Vedder wishes he could write like Scott Stapp." Perhaps remembering where he was, Marshall backtracked and admitted his appreciation for Pearl Jam before adding how he thinks they lost their way on their past few albums and noting the declining sales. Just a couple of days later, Stapp issued a statement on behalf of the other band members. He said, "I don't understand why he said what he said, and I definitely don't agree with any of it. Yes, we get tired of the Pearl Jam question, but there is no excuse for the arrogance and stupidity. I ask you all not to judge Creed as a band, because the statements made were not the band's feelings, they were Brian's." Less than 2 months later, Marshall departed the band. At a New Jersey music festival in the year 2000, a new feud was born between Creed and Limp Bizkit, specifically Fred Durst. While it has never been confirmed exactly what caused Durst to come unglued during Bizkit's set, he had more than a few choice words for Creed and Scott Stapp. Talking to the crowd, Durst reportedly said, "That guy is an egomaniac. He's a punk, and he's backstage right now acting like Michael Jackson." Apparently, Durst had been annoyed by the fact that Stapp was refusing to sign autographs. Creed issued its own statement, slamming Durst for demonstrating immature and egotistical actions. Durst wasn't about to let them have the final word, telling MTV News, "Creed should take a hint and spend more time signing autographs than writing about me." Durst was not the only one to comment on Creed's growing ego, with reviewers also stating it was impacting the quality of their work, especially on their 2001 album, Weathered. In 2017, Stapp acknowledged to GQ that he had been a bit full of himself during this period, saying, "I can't sit here and pretend and lie and say that fame and money doesn't change someone in their 20s.
When the success came, man, it's hard not to get just inflated.
In early 2002, Creed was in the middle of a tour to support their third album, Weathered, when Scott Stapp caught a bad break. While driving his SUV on a Florida highway en route to a video shoot, he was struck from behind by another vehicle. He would later explain to ABC Radio, "I'd just forgotten to put my seatbelt on, and it threw me into my steering wheel and my head hit the windshield." When police arrived, Stapp said that he was in shock and didn't realize he'd sustained injuries to his neck and back. As a result, police noted no injuries in the accident, which is where a slight controversy came into play. In their coverage of the accident, MTV News simply reported that Stapp had been in a minor crash, causing only about $1,000 worth of damage to his car, and that no injuries had been listed by responding police. Even so, Creed opted to cancel the remaining 20 dates of their tour. Stapp didn't appreciate the insinuation he was feigning injury and responded in an ABC radio interview saying, "For them to throw a spin and try to create some kind of controversy just shows the lack of humanity, the lack of media integrity, to find out both sides of the story. I think that was deliberately wrong on their part. It showed malice in their heart toward the band and toward me, which they've shown from day one unless they want something from us." MTV didn't respond to Stapp's remarks. In a 2006 interview with Rolling Stone, Scott Stapp stated that he had developed an addiction to alcohol and prescription medication that reached its peak in 2002. On December 29, 2002, those issues came to a head in a big way at a concert in Chicago, when Stapp took to the stage in a heavily intoxicated state. As a result, he left the fans in attendance disappointed by his performance. The show was so legendarily awful that a group of fans filed a class action lawsuit against the band, Ticketmaster, and the show's promoter. The fans alleged that all the parties involved were well aware of Stapp's substance issues, and that he was in no condition to perform that night. The lawsuit also mentioned a cheeky apology issued by the band in the aftermath, which expressed their hope that the fans in attendance could, quote, "take some solace in the fact that you definitely experienced the most unique of all Creed shows and may become part of the unusual world of rock and roll history." The suit was dismissed in 2003, but the damage to the band's reputation had definitely been done.
I thought when we signed a record deal and had our first song on the radio, I thought we had made it.
In June 2004, it was announced that Creed had broken up. Except for Scott Stapp, the remaining members of the band would go on to form the band Alter Bridge with vocalist Miles Kennedy. Stapp didn't join the new band, deciding to focus on his solo material instead. In the meantime, though, the singer's bad behavior spiraled out of control. Stapp appeared on the Spike TV show Casino Cinema and proceeded to trash his former bandmates and Foo Fighters' Dave Grohl for some reason, and acted inappropriately toward Howard Stern's wife, Beth Ostrowski, who was also in attendance. In a separate incident, Stapp allegedly sucker punched 311 drummer Chad Sexton at a Baltimore hotel in 2005. Then, in 2006, he was arrested after becoming hostile while trying to board a plane at Los Angeles International Airport on the way to his honeymoon destination. Stapp cleaned up his act not long thereafter, and in a sit-down interview with Spin in 2009, he claimed to have turned over a new leaf, stating, "You know, each situation and how it was covered led me to finally making a permanent change in my life." Scott Stapp made the headlines once again when a sex tape featuring him and Kid Rock engaging in sexual activity with women became public knowledge in 2006. Reportedly, the footage had been shot in 1999 while on a tour with Metallica. Given Stapp's long and public embrace of religion and morality, the news of the tape had a hugely negative impact on how he was perceived. In a conversation with Spin in 2009, he seemed appropriately mortified, stating, "What sucks about that is Kid Rock and I were friends. It's a time in his life and a time in my life that we'd like to put behind us and not publicize, because we have children now." Kid Rock had a different view and assessment about the incident. Asked about the tape by Louder in 2008, he said he was having fun with a lady in his trailer when Stapp came in with the video camera and asked if he could partake. Kid Rock welcomed him in and said he was only being a friend to him, even though he suspected the video could be leaked someday. In May 2007, Scott Stapp hit another low. Speaking with E! Online at the time, a Palm Beach County, Florida Sheriff's Department spokesperson explained that Stapp had come home at 8 in the morning after being out all night partying and gotten into an argument with his wife that had ended with him throwing a glass bottle at her head but missing. The cops were called and Stapp was arrested and charged with assault with intent to commit a felony, spending that night in jail.
You know, everything in my life came to a halt.
The charge was reduced to a misdemeanor, and Stapp agreed to submit to a substance abuse evaluation and also to take part in an anger management program. A few days later, Stapp issued a public apology while seemingly casting some of the blame for his actions on his wife as well. He said, "I am truly sorry and seek forgiveness from my wife, as she has done the same, seeking forgiveness from me. We both know we were wrong in how we handled the argument and in some of the allegations that were made." In December of that year, the charges were formally dropped, as Stapp had abided by all the conditions of his release. In 2009, Creed reunited for the album Full Circle. While not hitting the sensational sales numbers of their previous efforts, it did well and seemed to satisfy fans. Stapp also released a sophomore solo album, Proof of Life, in 2013. To many people's surprise, Stapp released a series of Facebook videos in November 2014, in which he made some truly shocking assertions. Namely, that he was destitute, homeless, and totally broke. Shortly thereafter, an announcement came that Stapp was launching a crowdfunding campaign to fund the recording of his next album, and also the publishing of a novel he was working on. What raised eyebrows was how much he was asking for, a whopping $480,000 to complete these projects. The Hollywood Reporter published a story that cited sources who said Stapp had received a $1.5 million payout for Proof of Life, on top of the $3 million he had split with the other 3 members of Creed for Full Circle. By way of speculating where that money had gone, the publication quoted his wife's attorney's comments about how Stapp had resumed his addiction and disappeared for lengthy periods of time. At the same time, the Hollywood Reporter also discovered quotes from his bandmates, who had posted on Facebook and expressed concern for his physical and mental health. A series of recordings posted by Scott Stapp unquestionably did further damage to his public standing. Stapp claimed all of his money had been siphoned off by mysterious parties who were stealing from him, that he was due royalties that were unpaid, and that the IRS had unilaterally frozen his assets. All of these claims came off as incredibly bizarre and had fans worried about him.
I thought the CIA was conducting mind control experiments on me.
Around this time, Stapp's wife Jacqueline also filed for divorce, and her petition contained allegations that were even more troubling. She stated that Stapp had claimed that he could talk to God, who was warning him about the DEA for some reason. In addition, he had sent rambling text messages about biological weapons being deployed in Florida, and musing about the possibility that Alcoholics Anonymous was a CIA operation. Fortunately, Stapp himself soon seemed to realize that there was something profoundly wrong. In May 2015, he told People magazine that he'd been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and acknowledged that he had suffered a psychotic break due to his years-long alcohol and drug addictions. He added, "In my delusional thinking, I thought my family was involved in ISIS, and that millions of dollars had been taken from me to support terrorism. All of it was nonsense. I was out of my mind." In 2017, fans unexpectedly found Scott Stapp sliding into a new gig as frontman for supergroup Art of Anarchy, which consisted of former Guns N' Roses guitarist Bumblefoot, Disturbed bassist John Moyer, and twin brothers John and Vince Voda. Formed in 2011 with former Stone Temple Pilots singer Scott Weiland on vocals, the band had found themselves in limbo when Weiland passed away in 2015. However, in Stapp, they found another capable vocalist who could invest their heavy, crunching brand of rock with lyrical weight. The band's 2017 album with Stapp, The Madness, was well received. However, soon there came an issue. According to the other members of the band, Stapp showed very little interest in shooting videos, touring, or doing much of anything else to promote the project. This they alleged in a $1.2 million lawsuit against the singer, which also asserted that Stapp had been fronted $200,000 upon joining the band. They said that his unwillingness to take part in promoting The Madness had cost the band potentially lucrative opportunities, up to and including a new recording contract. It should be noted that a very similar suit had previously been filed against Weiland, who called the band a scam, with that suit being unresolved at the time of Weiland's death. Art of Anarchy moved on with a new vocalist in the form of former Journey singer Jeff Scott Soto in 2020. And as of March 2023, it was being reported that the lawsuit with Stapp was still ongoing.
Yeah, it's crazy how it all happened.
In June 2023, Creed fans were stunned when it seemed the impossible was about to happen. Earlier that month, the band updated their Facebook page with a new logo, and their website was also updated with the new landing page, featuring the pronouncement that the band was back and encouraging fans to sign up for further news and updates. The band first announced a cruise in April 2024, before announcing a full-blown 40-show tour across the U.S. Appropriately titled the Summer of '99 Tour, this event would see Three Doors Down as the direct support and special guests for the majority of the tour, while the likes of Daughtry, Switchfoot, and Finger 11 would also appear throughout. As for whether there's any future for Creed beyond their upcoming tour, Mark Tremonti adopted a never say never attitude when speaking with Hatebreed singer and podcaster Jamie Jasta as far back as 2020. He said, "I'm sitting on an entire Creed album. I have like really sketchy little demos of probably 13 songs. Is it good enough for me to put everything on the back burner that I've been working on for the past 14 years? No. Is it good enough to maybe do 10 years from now? I wouldn't say no." To his credit, Scott Stapp is ready to take every single bit of the blame for pretty much everything that went wrong with Creed. Speaking with comedian and podcaster John Crist in 2023, Stapp shared that his bandmates were always uncomfortable with the fact that Creed was perceived as a Christian band, since they were definitely not living a Christian lifestyle. He explained how he didn't want to be seen as inauthentic or promoting hypocrisy to the people in the industry and their fans. Stapp also added there was a huge difference between what they were doing and what he was getting up to in his own personal life. He said, "I can own my part. I got mixed up in some things I shouldn't have that I go to a program for today. And that, I'm sure, was a major part, because had I not developed those issues, I think we probably could have worked through everything else.